Listen up!
Now listen, we gotta talk.
It's what we do best.
This is today's News Talk Radio, TNT.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to TNT Today's News Talk. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. We're in the second hour of this live broadcast. Thank you guys for coming along for the ride this week. Hello to everybody in the TNT chat community. We see the numbers building up in there. That's a little red bubble in the lower right-hand side of the screen. If you go to tntradio.live, join the TNT chat community. We've got over 100 people in there right now. We'll be dropping some links in there too during this segment, especially pertaining to the work of our next guest. I want to welcome onto the stage journalist Simona Mangiante is joining us right now from Los Angeles, I believe. Simona, thank you so much for coming on TNT this week.
Hi, Patrick. Thanks so much for having me.
Simona, we're going to talk about an interview that you recently conducted with a former Ukrainian MP who is a whistleblower, longtime anti-corruption campaigner in that country. His name's Andriy Derkach. This was an absolute bombshell interview. When you posted this up on your X account, Twitter X platform, it went viral very quickly. A lot of people are interested in what this person has to say because it really impacts what's going on right now with the White House going into an election year. There's an impeachment investigation. First of all, for those people who aren't familiar with you and your work, Simona, could you just introduce yourself, give us a little bit of your background, and then let's talk about this interview which you've done recently. But go ahead, Simona.
So thanks for giving me the opportunity. I'm an attorney, international law, so I know exactly how investigation works, and I transfer those skills to journalism to dig into corruption. And in particular, I was very much interested in the witness of this whistleblower, Andriy Derkach, portrayed by the Western media as an agent of the Kremlin for one single reason, because he outed sensitive information about Biden's crimes, Biden's family crimes in Ukraine. Derkach leaked the infamous Derkach tapes, which I would like to remind to the audience are these audio recordings of the conversation that Joe Biden, at the time he was vice president under the Obama administration, had with the former president of Ukraine, Poroshenko, in which he basically threatened him to withhold $1 billion from the American government to Ukraine in case he would not fire the general prosecutor at the time. His name is Shokin, who was looking into Burisma. Burisma is, I would like to remind, is the gas and energy company where Hunter Biden, a completely unqualified professionally for the role individual, was sitting on the board of administrators for $100,000 a month. So we have an interest of the Biden family using the leverage, political leverage of course, being the vice president of the United States for personal benefit, aiming worse to cover up crimes. So we have this conversation that has been leaked 2 years ago, and as a result, Derkach has been sanctioned by the United States. And as soon as Biden was elected, if we can use this term, he became also a target in Ukraine, where the office of Zelensky, and there is a big revelation about that, was at the origin of the leak of the same tape that Derkach has been sanctioned for leaking. So this is actually the first bombshell, but it's an interview dense of information, dense of supportive documents, because we don't have simply allegations or conspiracy theories. I had the opportunity to research and scrutinize the sensitive documentation, including court orders that have been recently unclassified, witnesses, and wire transfers that prove actually the money laundering scheme of Burisma, the company that made Biden's family rich. So we have to understand, on one side, we have the sitting president of the United States, former vice president, bribing the president of Ukraine to cover up for his son wrongdoing. And this was done at the expenses of American taxpayers. Because when we talk about the bribe of $1 to $2 billion, I have different actual information about it. So we're talking about a huge amount of money. This is money of American taxpayers.
So this is you're just scratching the surface there. There are so many revelations in this interview, which is just under an hour long. We've also reposted the link to this right now on X Twitter, just below our interview here. We've got that on our feed. Go to 21stcenturywire.com. Also, Simona's Twitter or X Twitter account. You'll find these stories as they've been released in chronological order on her timeline. First of all, let's delve into that corruption, the nexus there, which Derkach himself said both sides, the Ukrainian government is corrupt, the U.S. government, they're blackmailing each other, they're laundering money back and forth. He called it a crime syndicate. Those are the words he used. That was an incredible part of your interview. Go ahead, Simona.
I was actually very impressed with the speaker, not only for revealing to us, American media, this revelation, but also, again, for providing with supporting documents and evidence. And I repeat that because every time we talk about journalism, we talk about opinions. Here we have piece of uncontrovertible evidence, which I would like Congress take a look into. And this is actually something I don't stop saying since I've had this interview. Derkach made a point how not only has been a target of a weaponized DOJ that sanctioned him simply for collaborating with US government and genuinely providing information about corruption. Because we have to understand this individual who has been portrayed and undergraded as a puppet of the Kremlin is someone with an extensive political career. He was elected 7 times to the Ukrainian government. His entire career was devoted to exposing corruption. Now, as a result of collaborating with the United States, here we have him sanctioned. Now, not only sanctioned, the first sensational fact he shared with me is that he was victim of an assassination attempt in Ukraine. Assassination attempt that, of course, remained unpunished for the authors. So what we know right now, that this assassination attempt happened after Blinken, our Secretary of State, flew to Ukraine, met with Zelensky. This was at the eve of the start of the military operation, and instructed, literally quoting Derkach, Zelensky office to resolve the Derkach issue. Now, this expression obviously lead to unlawful methods of removal of the issue. And here we go with Derkach being victim of an attempt of physical assassination. So that is the reason why he fled the country. I had to meet with him in Minsk, and not in Kiev, not in Ukraine. He's in a sort of a political exile, where he's a victim not simply of a corrupted government, both in Ukraine and United States, but of a proper criminal organization. When we talk about method of physical elimination, of instruction, it comes directly from the Secretary of State of one of the biggest democracies that the world knows. I'm talking about the United States of America. We can imagine at which extent the corruption is normalized and these methods are tolerated. So for me, this was absolutely the first sensational fact of this interview. So witnesses exposing Joe Biden corruption are not only prosecuted and persecuted by the DOJ, but are also at risk of physical elimination. There are death threats on them. And he also extended this risk to not only to himself, but to other people who have been looking into Biden's affairs in Ukraine, exposing corruption, including prosecutor Kulik, including Dubinski, journalist that has been going through hell and is at risk again. His life is at risk for simply doing his job and outing the truth. Now, we know that back on time, in 2016, we built up this monster of Russia and Putin to justify everything that happened. We have seen unfolding afterward. So it's easy to build up this idea, this brainwashing machine that lead people to believe that Russia is the enemy, Putin is the enemy. And so, of course, everybody who's attempting to have international relations, which are like in the field of diplomacy, like Trump at the time was doing with North Korea as well, becomes some sort of enters in a scheme of collusion with Russia. But, you know, investigating and researching as a journalist, I made myself a question. First and foremost, my background as a lawyer led me to a question: who has the motive to help who to get in power? When we uncover all the interests that Joe Biden has in Ukraine and the Ukraine-US collusion in the election for, at the time, getting money for funding this war that Ukraine is actually initiated in many ways with the support of the Western world and first line United States. And of course, Joe Biden, the family of the president, getting rich off of Ukraine. We understand that the motive and the interest lead to one country, which is called Ukraine, and definitely not Russia. So I would like people to understand, to get off this Russia hysteria. There is absolutely no reason. I don't see any palpable motive why Russia would want another candidate in power, mentioning an example, Trump, who at the end of the day, with his policies, America first, didn't do any good for Russia during his presidency. But, we have now Biden financing a war, a bloody war, brainwashing people, making them believe that behind this war there is so much philanthropy, protection of the independence of a country, which is highly corrupted and which is benefiting his family. And it's, as you mentioned before, it's at the origin of this money laundering scheme, back and forward. We have billions of dollars moved. But I would like to go back later to other piece of evidence that really disturbed me. And I think American audience and generally everybody should know.
Well, let's talk about that. Well, firstly, just go back to that point, Simona. But before that, what was it like to meet Andriy Derkach? Because this is somebody who has kept a very low profile since he's being sort of pushed out of the country. He's being sanctioned by the United States, accused of election interference in 2020 in the U.S., which is a ridiculous charge. That I have not seen any credible evidence to that degree, as so many people have been accused of, quote, election interference. So he's been stripped of his citizenship of Ukraine. I believe they stripped him of his citizenship. Somebody took out a contract to a hit job to assassinate him, as you said. And Blinken's comments are a major bombshell. That's what Derkach is saying in your interview. That's certainly shocking. So what was it like? He's got all of this pressure. It's all of this stress. How was it like to interact with him? What was the sort of vibe you got from him?
Well, it was definitely, the interview happened in a condition of extreme security. Of course, this is a person whose life has been threatened, but at the same time is a person who fearlessly keeps working on exposing corruption. When actually I asked him, how does it feel to be betrayed at the time by his country and by the United States? He genuinely attempted to help. He gave me a very interesting question. He told me, my country is not this bunch of criminals at the government. My country are my people, and I will keep fighting for the people. And this was, so he came across as a man who's still fighting for corruption. It was actually very interesting, and I was very honored that he granted me an interview, because under the current condition, he has all the reason to be silent. And it's important to vehicle his voice and the evidence he collected for the public to know, but most importantly, to draw those documents to the attention of the elected officials that should start an impeachment hearing. Based on these documents, Joe Biden shouldn't be sitting in the White House. And I stress it again and again. These are really sensitive information, and we should never allow impunity and inaccountability when we look at this evidence. So we had this, it was a very experienced politician. Also, the only reason why he has been portrayed as a Kremlin agent is because of his education at the FSB, former KGB. But we have to remind people that his education dates of a time where the Soviet Union was still a union. So it was Russia and Ukraine were not even two different countries. So it's not that an Ukrainian citizen trained in Russia. It was trained by the KGB during the time of the Soviet Union. So we are actually building up, again, this information based on real facts that in the context are manipulated in a certain direction. But when we look at them in their date and in time and in the context of actually his career, have a completely different meaning. So we really went through a lot of evidence put on the table. At the time of the interview, I was simply looking into this document only later on at the time to translate, research, scrutinize, and understand the legal relevance of these pieces of information. But of course, We again, this piece of evidences include as well as along with a Hunter laptop are targeted with the same mantra, which is Russia propaganda. And every witness or whistleblower or every personal vehicle looking into Joe Biden corruption, including Rudy Giuliani, they are accused of being Russian agents or Ukrainian agents, or they're caught under some FARA violations, where actually the one who uses political leverage for personal gain and influencing decision in his own country and abroad is Joe Biden. So this is a fact that people should look into. Now, when we come to corruption in Ukraine, things are taking a proportionate extent, which is even more alarming. Derkach showed me how Biden's partner in Ukraine, and I'm talking about owner of Burisma and his lawyer, they invested part of the money involved in the money laundering scheme into financing terrorism. Everybody could suspect that Ukraine was involved in the explosion on Nord Stream. And this is another sensitive aspect that was really shocked to learn. Again, we have not only money launder, not only we have tax money of American taxpayers involved in bribes, but we have a highly corrupted country which is following Biden instruction into covering up crimes and participating into collateral bribes. Because I learned that the first bribe from Burisma owner, the size of the bribe was actually not $6 million, but $50 million. And we could track only 6 million of that money, where the other 44 millions went to. And that's we see unfolding other events happened shortly later, and including the explosion of the Nord Stream. So we are talking about an organized crime that Joe Biden didn't even feel any shame of. We heard him bragging about firing General Prosecutor Shokin. And going back to Shokin and going back to whoever exposed corruption, we know that Derkach revealed, is another fact that revealed during the interview, new tapes. So he leaked new audio recordings that I posted underneath my interview next, in which we can hear Shokin addressing to 2 American lawyers, Greenberg and Aborisk, which are 2 Congress lawyers, which not only informed them about new information on Biden corruption in Ukraine, but he also informed them that as a result of his work is now held hostage in Ukraine. So basically can't flee the country and his life is at risk. I would say very disingenuously, Derkach was even addressing to the American media, American public, asking for protection. He suggested that the American Congress should take Shokin out of Ukraine and offer him protection. I would suggest personally that our elected official would invite the speaker to testify in Congress, along with other witnesses, providing with the documents that as American media we could look into. But as Congress, obviously there is no interest, at least by now, to scrutinize. And this is probably what we should stress next step, because it's weakened the image of the United States in the world, and it's obviously it's damaging a lot the strength that this country should project.
So Viktor Shokin, a former prosecutor general in Ukraine, the one that Biden referenced when he said to Poroshenko, you're not going to get that loan unless you fire that prosecutor. This person is effectively being used as a bargaining chip by the Ukrainians with Washington. And again, that speaks to what Andriy Derkach called this criminal syndicate, where they're leveraging each other, they're taking money from each other, they're blackmailing each other. And that also speaks to the revelation that it was Zelensky's office, Zelensky and Yermak, who leaked the audio recordings to begin with. And so it does make sense. So what Andriy Derkach, this story he's painting, the evidence supports it.
Yes, and it was pretty shocking to know that there is the Zelensky office behind the leaking and advertising of these tapes. It's a really important piece of information. Now Zelensky, best friend with Joe Biden, since he got in power, he of course switched side for different reasons. But let's get back to this bargaining situation. When we think about the president of the United States, who is controlled by Ukraine in this moment because of the leverage that Ukraine has on the president, of the crimes that him and his family have been committing in Ukraine a long time ago. We're talking, everything started a long time ago. We're not talking about recent facts. And we think about the war right now and their unconditional support to the war when we have major problems at the border and a major problem with the homeless people all over the United States and financial inflation, which took unprecedented proportions in the last years. Then we understand that at which point this president should be absolutely immediately removed from office. But for some reasons, despite every piece of evidence is out there, we are criminalizing everybody who look into this evidence instead of looking into those facts and held people accountable for those facts. And this is important to stress because we see unfolding political persecution. We know that Rudy Giuliani was actually starting an investigation based on what Derkach at the time provided to him. And has been silenced as a result. His bar license has been removed, and
that's another key point, Simona, which you brought up, that what Rudy Giuliani produced after he made his first trip to Ukraine, interviewed Shokin, all of this was true, but he was demonized in the media. They tried to discredit him, but the receipts that he came back with when he was sent over to investigate, they're all absolutely true. It's all been proven to be factual. That's incredible.
And and we have new documents unfolding supporting the investigation that at the time they were busy to discredit by discrediting him, the one looking into these facts. And Giuliani was very brave at the time to meet with Derkach, meet with Shokin, and acquire all the piece of evidence necessary to actually start a proper legal investigation into Biden's involvement in Burisma and Biden interference into removing the general prosecutor of Ukraine from his position without any reason whatsoever. Actually, one interesting aspect of this Derkach tapes is that we can hear clearly Poroshenko stating that despite no evidence of corruption could be found, it would accommodate Joe Biden's will just to get this money. And again, we're talking about, and I stress it all the time, money of American taxpayers. So Biden became rich with Ukrainian taxpayer monies, and they bribed Ukraine with American taxpayers' money. That was the entire conversation, the core part of the interview with Andriy Derkach, who, as I said, is now in exile. His life has been basically destroyed. He has been sanctioned by the United States. He is targeted by his own country, and until a switch and a change of the administration will happen, I don't see the situation any difference. And also, even most disturbingly, he was victim of an assassination attempt. So and he suggested that other individuals that participated into exposing corruption by Biden in Ukraine are facing the same risk for their life, and they're victim of multiple legal prosecution.
It's incredible. So all the journalists in Ukraine who have been investigating this, exposing this, Debunking, his life is in danger, many believe, and also Konstantin Kulik, and you have Derkach, and you have pretty much anybody who said anything to expose any corruption. And all this is going on, Simone. The incredible thing is the United States have set up all these anti-corruption agencies in Ukraine to police corruption in Ukraine. And according to Derkach and his reporting and Giuliani's findings as well, these seem to be a front to protect corruption in Ukraine.
Absolutely. NABU is completely democratic controlled bureau. So we are talking about the body there that is conceived to prosecute corruption, is actually protecting criminals to be unpunished because of their corruption. And it's made clear. For example, let's think about one recently unclassified court documents, which is the court case involving Shlovetsky, which is the owner of Burisma. So we can see how, for organizing a bribe of the actual size of 50 million, he has been awarded a fine of $1,800. So this was the punishment for the owner of Burisma for organizing a bribe of $50 million, of which we don't know where other 45 million have gone. We have massive cash bribes. So we have also these pictures attached to the documents, court documents, which shows like they look like coming from a movie scene, like van full of cash. And that's just as palpable as it is. But of course, there is no interest yet. I still trust at some point some honest prosecutor will look into that, but it will require a switch of power or, definitely accountability.
The largest bribe in Europe, and you get a $1,800 fine. And then they buried it and they're tying up all the loose ends, trying to erase everything, closing all the cases. All of this has been proven. You've got the receipts. You posted a lot of this on your social media as well. Go to X platform, formerly Twitter, and follow Simona Mangiante. She has posted all of this online, including the latest audio recordings with Victor Shokin. So it's all there, ladies and gentlemen. Watch the interview. It's absolutely gripping. It is full of bombshell after bombshell. There's enough in there for at least 2 or 3 impeachment hearings. Forget about just one. So fantastic work, Simona, on this. Your final words before we break.
Thank you. I just would like to remind people I also posted 2 witnesses of 2 people involved in the money laundering scheme of Burisma, which are the director of WireLogic and Digitex, which are the company directly involved in the money laundering, in the context of their court case, in which they explain as people directly involved how this money laundering scheme operated. So we are talking about court documents in which the players, the characters of these crimes are witnessing their own wrongdoing, and they are punished as a result. The lawyer of Burisma, Kicha, who has been caught handing $6 million of the 50 million, has also stayed punished mostly. So we are really talking about NABU, who is there as a democratic controlled anti-corruption bureau in Ukraine, that it's conceived that the only purpose to cover up for crimes, money laundering, Biden involvement, tons of evidence and documents that prove those allegations. And the only people who have been punished are the anti-corruption individual that carried investigation to out crimes. Derkach, Kulik, Shokin, Dubinsky. Everybody's been involved in exposing corruption and investigating corruption, including our Rudy Giuliani, are in deep trouble, have been bankrupted, have been sanctioned at the time, and their life is at risk. So how long we can still tolerate that? It's my answer. And I would like everybody to stress a petition eventually to the Congress of the United States to have a look into these documents, because I think people deserve a response, deserves accountability for their taxes used in a wrong direction to support Biden's family crimes rather than other important things in the interest of the country.
Yes, absolutely. This is the least we could expect if we do believe in democracy and anti-corruption, as people like to talk about. If we actually believe in these things, that's the least of the expectations here. And hopefully there's a lot going on in Congress with this, and hopefully they'll look at this seriously. Simona Mangiante, really appreciate you coming on TNT, today's News Talk this week. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me and giving a voice to these facts. Thanks you, Patrick.
And follow Simona on her platforms on X, Twitter as well. You'll get all the information again there. You also get breaking updates as well. That's where you want to be on this story. And we'll also post updates as well at 21st Century Wire. We'll talk about it more on TNT. Hopefully we'll speak to Simona again in future. Listen, let's take a break right now with the network and come back for reactions, final thoughts, and some late breaking news from our intrepid correspondent, Basil Valentine, off the coast of North Africa. All this and more coming up. Stay right there.
From weather and traffic reports
to news of political developments,
we turn to journalists for the information we need to live our daily lives.
Journalists around the world provide news that is essential for democracy,
for personal freedom, and for safety and stability.
Yet their ability to report freely and safely is under attack like never before.
Too many journalists are paying with their lives. They face exponential risks and they've already paid a heavy toll.
Death threats, online harassment, and physical attacks
are becoming a daily experience of journalists in all countries.
We just want people to be safe, to be able to get our readers the information that they need to make informed decisions.
They checked my phone and realized that it was Pegasus. I feel myself like I'm naked at the street.
These charges were politicized from the start.
Facts win. Truth wins. Justice wins.
C'est énorme pour moi d'être là, d'être libre, surtout que je ne m'y attendais pas du tout.
Stand with a free press.
Stand with journalists whose reporting won't be silenced. Press freedom is your freedom.
Patrick Henningsen and TNT.